Hey, what's up guys? Today's video is about something that's very near and dear to my heart, and I've wanted to talk about it for a while now. I'm sure a lot of you know where this is going just by the title, and yes, in my opinion, the best way to learn the layout of a track before you arrive, keyword, is to put in some work on the sim. I bought a sim to practice and gain confidence before doing my first track day, and it helped immensely. Just being able to learn the fundamentals before you ever got to the track. That's a little bit outside the scope of this video, because we're mostly going to be talking about learning how to learn the line and the layout of the track as quickly as possible. It was actually one of the main reasons I was able to make early YouTube videos like this. I'll throw some up on screen. But essentially I was out driving most, if not all, of Novice Group, not to mention with a much slower car. You know, mostly there's lots of Corvettes, Camaros, that sort of standard thing. There's that really fun video I had with the guy with the Supra. Cool dude, awesome car, by the way. But yeah, it was basically like, you know, I cheated. Cheater! Because at that point I already had around 100 virtual hours of track time under my belt, which just helps tremendously translating to real life. And to any naysayers talking about it's just a game, bro, no, it's not.
So all in all, I'll say that sim racing is very similar to real life racing.
I think that it can help people tremendously. It's really good for learning tracks.
I'm still, using iRacing to kind of learn tracks, to even sometimes for fun.
If you're new to the channel, my name's Eric, also known as Dad Hats on the internet. Let's dig into it. Now, I've been to NJMP a number of times, but somehow I've always managed to miss out on trying Thunderbolt. Mass Tuning happens to be hosting a track day at Thunderbolt on March 11th, and I decided it was finally time to register to check out the track. I'm planning on making a follow-up video on my experience and showing you guys how useful the sim practice was in real life, how well it translates, that sort of thing, assuming everything goes as planned. So what you're seeing in the background is a little bit of Assetto Corsa gameplay of my first lap at NJMP Thunderbolt. This track's made by Los Guys and is still a work in progress, so there aren't any buildings or pretty assets to look at, but pretty sure the layout is 100% done and accurate, or at least close enough for our use case. And for my choice of car, the ND Miata Cup car. Since it's relatively similar to my modified BRZ in real life, although it is a good bit lighter and grippier. Like I mentioned earlier, this is my absolute first lap out, so it's going to be pretty dang rough, but I wanted to show you how I go about learning a new track. So first, I just start off with having a bit of fun, trying to get a feel for the track and just simply remember what corner comes next. As you'll see, as we progress, I'm going to naturally understand and just kind of figure out where to place the car and just get a rough idea about the racing line. Now, this is personal preference, but I like to try and figure out the line for myself in the beginning just because I enjoy it and I find it fun, honestly. Especially since it's on a sim and it's not like real life where you're spending any money on seat time trying to figure things out. As you'll see, I'm having tons and tons of trouble keeping it on track in the back half of the track, which is really the main part of the track which we're going to be focusing on. Now, let's watch a little bit of this uncut lap just to kind of see where I am with no offs. Then hopefully we can skip ahead to a clip with actual audio. This is the first time I've really done any sort of recording video game gameplay like this, so a couple audio technical glitches, but we'll get it sorted. So as you can see, having a couple issues, mainly not knowing which gear to be in. Apexes are kind of rough, but I think that's to be expected with, learning a new track. So we got turn 5 coming up here. Just really, really important to nail that late apex and be able to carry that speed all the way onto the straight. Nothing too crazy here at this point. Pretty basic stuff, maybe just a slight lift for this corner if that. Now up ahead, things are going to start to get interesting. This is by far the most unique part of the track and most technical for sure. These decreasing radius turns here, really, really hard to get right, especially with no experience. You can see I just absolutely completely whiff it. Try to bring it over and try and keep this part really, really tight, doing my best. I have been here in real life as a spectator, so I kind of have an idea of how this back section works, but not the really crazy bit, which you could see I did not execute correctly. So as we cross the finish line here, we're going to finish with a 136.4, which just means we have tons and tons of time to improve. So we're back, and now this time we have the audio turned on, thank God, and I did find the feature where I can turn on my ghost. This is offset by, I believe it's 3/4 of a second. Just having that offset lets me be able to essentially follow myself around the track as I learn the corners. So pretty cool feature that lets you offset it like that. Now, while we have some downtime, just kind of want to talk about the user interface here. One of my favorite apps actually, called Sidekick, kind of displays everything essential to you all in one place, and super clean UI. I actually modeled my real life car after this app. That's why having Race Chrono is such a big deal to me. You can actually see your time delta in real life, in real time. And with the addition of the OBD2 reader, you can see your pedal inputs, after the fact, not necessarily in real time. Not that I really look at that in the sim either, but it's really good for looking at your lap times, after the fact, and a little bit of data review, if you will. On the next lap, we will be able to see the time delta pop up, and then I can kind of dig into that a little bit more and how I use it. So as we cross the finish line yet again, we're going to get a 133.6, and that is again going to be about 3 seconds faster than our baseline lap, yet that's still super rough, and there's still plenty of time to shave for sure. So as I mentioned, you can kind of see the second number from the left in green right now. That displays your time delta from your best lap of the session. Same way I use it in Race Chrono, which again, why I'm such a big advocate for Race Chrono. Love this feature. Just lets you be able to see if you make a mistake in real time. So I went through that corner and it gained about, let's say, 3-4 tenths, and it carries more onto the straight. But if I were to make a mistake, let's say I spun out or something like that, and was able to recover, I'd probably lose like half a second, and you'd be able to see that in real time. If for some reason you didn't know, well, there's a good example. I lost half a second right there. So again, we shaved another 2 seconds. But at this point, wasn't really interested in trying to perfect, my version of what I thought the racing line was. Shave a few tenths here or there, but now it's time to look up an expert tutorial, see what other people are doing, people with way more experience than me, and try to learn from the best and replicate that. So like I may have mentioned earlier, the first half of the track is pretty uneventful, to be honest with you. The last half is really technical, and honestly the part that trips me up the most. So for the sake of this video, and so it's not too damn long, I'm just going to be focusing on, I believe it's turns 5 through 11. So we're just going to watch a quick clip from this video and hopefully avoid getting copyrighted.
Wasn't going fast enough. You wind it back down for turn 8. You'll see my hand straighten out as I get in the brake so I don't lock up the front tires. Nice and tight through turn 9. Slowly transition your weight as you come into turn 10. You want to stay down on that carousel curbing on the inside here. You're just barely in the throttle until you get into the uphill and you start feeling the grip.
Alright, now that we're armed with this new knowledge, we're going to go try out these lines and see how we do. So as you can see, my first lap in, I'm doing pretty decent. I was around 2 tenths up on my lap, kind of scuffed a braking zone, maxed out third gear, just trying to figure out what to do. And then you can see I just banked a ton of time super easily, just thanks to knowing where to place the car. Skipping ahead, we can skip the straight because no one wants to watch a Miata do 110 miles an hour for 30 seconds. And we crossed the line with a 130.7, which was about 4 tenths faster than our previous personal best, even though we still had sort of a scuffed lap. After a few more laps, I did improve 2 more laps in a row, again by 2 tenths each lap. Nothing too eventful, nothing too crazy to show. So we're going to skip ahead to my second to last lap and my second best lap of the day. So second to last lap, as I come into turn 1, get a pretty good run, and manage to keep it all the way through turn 2 for the most part. And for turn 3, I'm just nearly flat, but just a hair of a lift, and then back on throttle. Turn 4, managed to keep most of my time, even gained just a hair. Turn 5, slowly starting to lose it, but did get a late apex, so kind of made up for some of it, even though I did scrub off a lot of speed. Just being able to maintain your speed in that late apex matters just so much. And as we come into turn 7, I do miss my apex slightly, so it pushes me a little bit wider, and then have to lift, lose a little bit of time there. And as I come into 8, I do lose time as I grind the gears, so oops, didn't mean to do that. Try to recover the best I can, but the damage is already done at this point, and I still managed to bank a sizable amount of time. So after setting that personal best and getting in the low 130s, I know I can break into the 129s. Just gotta lay down a bit of a better, cleaner lap, and then we'll see what we can do. In turn 1, I did manage to overslow it a little bit, but thankfully in turn 2 was able to carry more speed than the previous lap, so kind of negated that disadvantage. And at this point in my experience here, I learned that I was able to actually shift to 5th way earlier than I was before, just because I'm carrying so much speed. Quick downshift for 4, and then back over to the right for 5. Try to bring it in as much as I can. And don't quite manage to get the late apex that I wanted, but we're still positive on time. So as we come into 7, I nail that apex for once, which is very rare. Into 8, here we go, pretty clean. I think I overslow a little bit, but managed to keep a tight enough line, gain lots of time there. Trying to keep it as tight as we can here. Accidentally wash out. Try to make it work with sort of a double apex, but still lost about 2/10 there. And let's see what we get. We're just barely losing time, so if we do get it, it's going to be really tight. And we're just barely able to make that mark by 0.03 of a second. At this point, I was totally down to call it quits. I was only on the sim for about 2 hours counting, looking up some of the YouTube content that I was using to figure out my line. But yeah, I was super psyched about that. Obviously, nothing too crazy. It wasn't like the craziest laps ever. I'm sure, honestly, I could clean a lot of that up. I was looking at my theoretical. I think I did see a 129.5. And that's still with making plenty of mistakes. There's a lot to work on. Honestly, there's probably at least a second in it if I cleaned it up, maybe a second and a half. If you guys ever want to try this, I'll link the track down below if you want to check it out and see what you can do. I did use the base Kunos Miata Cup car, so feel free to check that out, and then let me know what kind of times you guys get if you actually want to try it. I appreciate you guys checking this video out. Not quite the normal content for this channel, but especially since it's the off season. I think I did mention I'm planning on kind of experimenting, playing around with some stuff, but my first track day is in March, so back to the regular content once spring hits. And yeah, thanks for watching.